What is up, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of BHR. This is Paul.
This is Patrick.
And, sorry that we missed this last week. We did it a little bit unannounced, but...
Yeah, I need to take the blame for this one. We were kind of going back and forth on whether or not we were going to do an episode over the 4th of July weekend, because we had family things going on and things like that, and we kind of decided at the last minute we weren't going to do it. And I usually take care of the social media stuff, and it fell on me, and I did not make an announcement, so I apologize for that. Kind of left you guys in the dark. I hope you guys didn't think that we were just leaving you.
Right. The podcast is not over. It's not. Yeah, we are not done. We're gonna keep going with this. But 4th of July, it was a big family time, and I'm sure a lot of you guys, you probably didn't even have time to listen to our podcast if we did miss one, or maybe you don't even realize that we missed one, but now you do. But 4th of July was pretty cool. Had a really good time. Went out, bought a little bit of fireworks, hung out with family. Shot off some crazy big fireworks. There was one that my brother-in-law picked up on the east side of the state that supposedly is banned, actually, in North Dakota. It's like an eighth of a stick of dynamite. They're called milkmaids. It's insane.
Never heard of that.
It is insane. It is louder than the big mortar round fireworks. I mean, absolutely nuts. Little sidetrack, random tidbit. I looked it up because I was kind of curious as to how many pounds of gunpowder we basically buy every 4th of July. And it's somewhere in the ballpark of 300 million or 168 million. Somewhere between 168 and 300 million pounds of fireworks.
Oh,
gunpowder.
Do you mean the United States as a whole, or just North Dakota?
United States. United
Okay.
States as a whole, every 4th of July. That's how many pounds of gunpowder we buy. I mean, it's insane when you think about that. I think we could, that's why... That's one reason why I do love our country, and why I think the rest, if you want to pick a fight, a real fight with the United States, you probably shouldn't, because, we blow up over 100 million pounds of, our own, just for fun, right? You probably shouldn't pick a fight with the crazy person, right?
Yeah.
Not saying that we're crazy for doing it, but that's just our pastime. How was your 4th of July, though?
Mine was good. Just hung out with family, lit off small fireworks, didn't really do a whole lot. Just kind of over the whole, buy a ton of fireworks, light them off in 5 minutes, and then...
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, we had...
There was plenty of people around town lighting off fireworks for me.
Yeah, it was absolutely nuts. And, speaking of fireworks... one thing to kind of bring up, because it's a little bit dangerous in this area right now, because, a little touch of local news, we have a bad drought going on.
I was honestly surprised we were allowed to light off fireworks this year.
Yeah.
I was expecting them to say no fireworks in town.
I don't think that they could have stopped it. I think that's the biggest
So
issue.
what I heard was the reason that they didn't ban it, even though it's extremely terrible conditions, is that the police wouldn't be able to enforce it. There would have been too many people.
It would have been a total wreck for our PD. I mean, could they have attempted? I mean, they could have made a solid attempt, but I feel like it would have caused chaos in other areas if they would have tried to put the manpower towards shutting down lighting off fireworks on the 4th of July.
Well, and I remember when I was younger, and maybe it was only on the 4th of July it was legal. I know they did it for 2 days this year.
Right.
And the last couple of years, but I thought there was a time when you weren't allowed to light them off in town at all.
Yeah, when I was younger, I feel like that was a policy.
I just remember fireworks going off everywhere.
Actually, I know that. I'm 95% sure that was a policy when I was younger.
You could not do it inside city limits,
Yep.
and there was still everywhere.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, shoot. I mean, it's a big celebration. I understand why people want to do that, but with this drought, I mean, it is a little bit scary. We came home after our 4th of July celebration, and there was a big burn mark in our front yard from a firework. I mean, it's that could have spread.
Well, and we were over at my son's mom's house, and she had the sprinkler going in the yard while the kids were lighting off fireworks. Because she just had a board down, and she just had a sprinkler going the entire time.
Yep. Heck yeah. But, it's a good thing that we have put a lot of money towards our fire departments. I mean, I think we have 3 plus the county now, and they are well equipped, and they have a ton of people. I mean, they have so much. They have so much tools at their expense. Like they can take their fire trucks and drive through, go through McDonald's, just chill. Actually, I saw one. I went out to eat at one of the restaurants in town, and I saw a fire truck go through the subway drive through.
That's awesome.
And I'm just like, well, it is. This is me being like that conservative type of stiffler though, where it's like, like that, like, what's your gas mileage on that? Like, that's the taxpayers' money. Like, just take your Honda, go to Subway, pick up food for the crew, and then come back. Like, I don't know.
I mean, if they were just coming back from a call and they're done and it's on the way back, why not?
There was another really big part of kind of local news. Like, we did have the big firework launch at the racetracks. I didn't go to that.
I didn't go to that one either.
I heard it was pretty good. But that's like a privately put on fireworks show. And to my knowledge, there was not a Williston. I think we talked about that before we.
So
before
it was
we
not
left.
put on by the city,
Right.
but there was a fireworks stand on Highway 2.
Yeah.
And they put on a show for everyone.
Right. Yep.
It got they announced it on Facebook. They even live streamed it. I wasn't able to make it, but I watched some of it on Facebook.
Nice.
Yeah. So it made me really kind of happy to see that. To see a group of people stand up and say, hey, well, if the city can't do it. And this happens every year, and almost every decent sized town has a fireworks display.
Right.
There's no reason that we shouldn't have.
And actually, like, in a sense, like, that is exactly kind of where my political ideology will fall. Like, right there, where government kind of says, hey, we'll step back, and people put it on themselves. So, like, I am upset. I do get upset with our town and some of the ways that it's ran, right? Because we do need to establish a community, but who's to say that the people of the Williston, the businesses of Williston, can't kind of assume that role and do exactly what they did there? I mean, that's perfect. That's a perfect example of what I like to see. Businesses stepping up and putting forth the effort to do something for the community. Private industry taking over a public service, or what was like a public service. But like talking about independence, talking about gunpowder. One thing that kind of always has me thinking about is war. Right? We had historically we have had quite a few wars that we've been involved with. Our Independence Day is a celebration of that, of our victory in war. But I think our future, it's getting a little bit scary. The thing I'm kind of poking at here is North Korea again. I mean, when we first started this podcast, I talked.
We dedicated an entire episode to North Korea, and I think we mentioned them a couple times after that.
Right. And they're still relevant. They've still been in the news. I'm sure some of you have heard about it. But we have to talk about it more now, because things are really starting to kick off. This last week, North Korea tested an intercontinental ballistic missile that is capable of hitting Alaska. And the way that they could tell this, right, is like first off, you can identify that it's an intercontinental ballistic missile by the angle that it goes into the atmosphere. So this missile went much, much, much higher than like normal missiles,
or anything that they've had, at least.
Right, and they've been able to analyze that and say, yes, it is an ICBM, and yes, it is capable of hitting Alaska. And I know, like, some people are like, oh, it's Alaska, but it's the United States. Like, that is, if somebody hit us with a nuke, or even just a missile, it doesn't even have to be a nuke. If they hit a city with a missile, it doesn't
even have to be a city or a town. There doesn't even have to be population there. If it hits anywhere in our soil,
yeah, the chaos that will ensue, the rage, the things that would happen after that would be absolutely insane. Oh, by the way, I have banned smoking in the area that we record this in. So Patrick is vaping. Okay. That's our vape break there.
Yeah. So if you can hear that, I'm sorry, but
North Korea, them testing this, things are not looking good. I'm very, very afraid of like what comes next. Like we did our little rebuttal to this test, because it's still we play games, right? So it's like, oh, they test a missile, we test a missile, they test this, we test this, and so we tested missiles immediately after they launched their ICBM, and then we've been doing like bombing drills down in South Korea and doing some more stuff. And that's one thing that's in the media right now, is saying how North Korea is saying that our actions are very offensive, and it's like,
Well, you brought this up before we started recording too, about how it kind of felt like propaganda.
right.
So I'm not siding with North Korea by any means,
Yeah.
but it's just, I don't know, it all plays so perfectly.
And
It's almost like they're trying to convince us to go, like,
No.
it's time to go to
Well,
war.
and like that's so like if think you gotta analyze it like a game of chess, right? Well, okay, checkers for those that don't know chess. So like say you have your piece, right? And you know one of your pieces you're gonna lose that piece. So what you're gonna do is prepare your other pieces, right? And so if war is inevitable, which when you're dealing with a crazy dictator, a crazy communist dictator, in his young 30s trying to prove a point, it seems like they're coming to that point of no return when it comes to like trying to avoid this war, because China isn't doing enough. And what they're doing, right? They do need to prepare us. Like we cannot get invested into a war without having the populace have the mindset, the proper mindset. And anymore with the country. I honestly don't know how at least like a quarter of our country to half would react if we were hit with a missile, right? Because that would prompt, like, we would have to go to war at that moment, right?
Well, the only thing that I could think of that would even be close to that in our lifetime would have been 9/11, and I was so young that I mean, obviously people were freaking out, but I was too young to pay attention to how the whole country really...
Yeah, and you're just a little bit younger than me, but I don't know if you remember, like, the... and it's understandably so, like, everybody had it, the ultra-patriotism after that happened. I mean, for the longest time there, when we would do the Pledge of Allegiance or the national anthem would play at the basketball games, like, it would send chills, right? Like, right after 9/11, it would send chills down your spine, because everybody was saying the Pledge of Allegiance. Everybody was singing. Everybody was singing the national anthem. When somebody pokes the bear, I do believe our country unites in a very strong way. So it's like, but still, like, our country needs to be prepared with that idea of we might be going to go to war with North Korea.
Well, North Korea, like, I know they already keep being compared to, like, a child with a hand grenade, but I just, like, every time that they do these missile tests, it just, like, makes me think of that young kid, like, in the backseat of his car, in the car, trying to, like, mess with his sister, like, I'm not touching you. Like, shoot a missile, 200 miles off the coast of Japan, and now you're shooting a missile that's capable of hitting Alaska. You're doing, you're just doing this, like, hey, I can do it, like, but I'm not.
I kind of see it that way, but then I also kind of try to analyze it like this. They're showing they not, the big thing is that they're showing advancement, right? Like, if they wanted to annoy and keep poking, they would have kept just doing small, minor missile tests. If they want to actually blow us up, they would advance their missile tests, and that's exactly what they did. They went from having a very small local range of keeping it in Southeast Asia to being able to hit the Alaska. So with them having that growth in their technology, I think, like, it is very possible that we could see part of the United States get hit with a missile.
Mm-hmm. Well, and we talked about, when we talked about this in the podcast, that we're fully capable of stopping a missile from hitting the United States.
So fully, like,
I'm not saying we 100% will, but we have a lot of good measures in place to prevent it.
Well, okay, like, yeah, I'll say yes, but the good measures in place, I don't know how, like, if I can actually say that, like, wholeheartedly without doubt, because we never tested our anti-missile systems until, like, 3 months ago in preparation for North Korea, and we tested one. right? So that's not that's not really good in my book, right? And yeah, these things are multi-million-dollar machines that are well engineered, but even like take a look at back. Do you remember when Trump launched those missiles at at Syria?
The Tomahawk missiles.
Yeah. Yep. I think I can't remember the exact number, but I remember out of like the anywhere from 30 to 40, whatever it was that we sent, there was still one that didn't
There
failed.
was 60, and it was only 59 missiles.
Right, and one failed. Like,
and they're what, like $200,000 a piece or something like that.
I think those were quite a bit more. I can't remember though. I think they were in the ballpark of millions. So like they are none of the missiles are cheap. But think about like that's a lot. That's actually a really huge percentage. You're looking at almost a 2%, like 1.5% failure rate, and so what that means, like what I kind of if that's a standard for some of our military technology. That means that our anti-missile systems, well, okay, just shoot 100 missiles at the United States. 1, maybe 2 will get through. like that's a little bit scary. And the other part with North Korea is like they made this advancement without our knowledge, and that's something that people don't really know a lot about. Is that North Korea's military compounds and basically anything that they take serious, they build deep underground.
Well, it doesn't surprise me that they've made this advancement without our knowledge, because I mean their country's pretty much on lockdown.
Well, but like with spy,
obviously we have satellites and
spy
things,
satellites and everything. Yeah,
it doesn't surprise me.
But
I feel like there's a good chance they already have technology beyond this. That we don't.
They're definitely working on it, and what it is like they have some of the world's craziest underground complexes there. Because during the Korean War, we bombed the hell out of that country, and they really kind of respected, or they feared our bombing runs, and so after we kind of called it off for a while, or until further notice, they built everything major underground, like any big thing that they really care about as far as a strategic military resource or whatever, it is deep underground, and that's the part that's kind of scary. Like think about playing a video game, right? Yeah, like it's good to be really good at the game and be able to run around and win the game, but if you don't have those skill sets, you just bunker down. You camp, you wait, you hide in a house with a shotgun, and then boom.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of afraid, like, so the war that we would need to hit with North Korea, if war is inevitable, I really don't think that we could do a land war with them. I think that would just be a bad mistake, because this is like the ultimate camper in a video game. Like it's like they have all of these they have weapons. They do have weapons. They might not have all of the best weapons, but they have enough to do so much damage and to really, we just won't be able to invade them if war happens. I mean,
we could, but we wouldn't get very far as far as tactical,
right?
Like objectives. We'd be able to occupy the country, no problem, but we wouldn't be able to probably take over any of their military.
Well,
bases
I think
or anything like
exactly, and I think, and it would go on way too long. It would cost way too many human lives. And I mean, it would be a repeat of the Korean War. It would be almost an identical repeat of the Korean War, because although China has came a long way in the world, I still believe there's no way that they want the United States or a country that's influenced by the United States right on their border. They like having North Korea on their border.
But isn't South Korea?
No, well,
really like kind of influenced by us?
Oh yeah, South Korea.
So they already have a country.
No,
right there.
but China doesn't want one on its border,
okay.
Right? So like that's like a buffer. North Korea is like a nice buffer for China and South Korea, and then they have the demilitarized zone, which is nothing gets through there. It's like the soundproof wall. So China really doesn't have a lot to worry about when it comes from that part of the country because but now you remove that demilitarized zone, you have the United States and South Korea and Japan moving up into North Korea, and they push up onto the border. Will China actually reinforce the Koreans exactly like what they did during the Korean War? Historically, I don't know how many of you guys know this, but like it was a really, really big deal. The Korean War. Do you know who General MacArthur is?
I recognize the name.
So General MacArthur was a 5-star general, big badass guy from World War II. Just historically, the guy was a beast when it came to military. Some people refer to him as like the Julius Caesar. I want to say it's the Julius Caesar of the United States because presidents had a really hard time telling him what to do. Like a very like you don't tell. MacArthur directly refused to acknowledge some reports of the presidents, right, during the Korean War. So he goes over there. It starts off where we're on just a tiny little pinprick on the bottom of the peninsula, and he does amazing works of strategy and pushes the North Korean, the communist Koreans up. And he keeps pushing them up and up and up. And he gets to the wall. He gets to the border of Korea and China. And then China floods them with troops. And at that moment, MacArthur is really pissed. And he's like, hey, says this to the president, let's invade China. Let's just do it. I'm going to do it. And the president, like, no. Yeah, no, I'm going to do it. And this basically was military suicide for him. I mean, it's too bad, but like the president had to leave Washington D.C. and go meet. Like it wasn't the general. It wasn't the general coming to him and like being punished. The president had to leave the White House and go out into very close to a war zone to reel in this guy and he was passionate. He was super intelligent, and honestly, like if you gave somebody like that enough troops, they could conquer the world. Like the modern day, the United States' version of Julius Caesar, unstoppable beast. And I mean, so if we go to war with North Korea, will we be faced with that concept of China is flooding in troops? What do we do? I mean, like, the potential for a possible world war, it's there. It's silent, it's quiet, but it's still present.
Well, I mean, there's always a possibility of a world war when any major conflict happens, but what would draw in other countries to participate other than just China and North Korea?
It's similar to the old days, right? A lot of alliances, and this is what we've done. Like, I mean, history repeats itself, right? So prior to World War I, there was a lot of unspoken alliances between countries, and then one conflict happened, boom, World War I. World War II, kind of still like it was an echo of that exact same thing. And then now, when you look at it, we are so economically dependent, and in a sense, we have economic alliances with everybody, including people we hate. But that's one thing about the United States. Like, we will do business with the worst people on the planet. It's just part of us. But the big issue is like how dependent we are on the natural resources of China and the economic, like the industrialization of that country. So, like if they start messing with us in this war, and we want to actually stop it, we'll have to go to war with them, right? Okay, so there's China, Russia. Also, like it's a money deal.
Well,
so,
we've talked about before too. We're not really sure which way Russia would go.
I honestly, because of like local area, I think Russia would honestly probably go with China this time around. I mean, like, it was really cool in the last sets of wars that they kind of came around and came to our side, but I don't think they would do it again. I think they would absolutely go with China, because China has the manpower, which Russia lacks, and Russia has the technology, are some really like they're more advanced than China, so they would complement each other quite well. Russia, we don't gain as much from Russia as what they would gain from us. Like, yeah, they would still probably like to be our partners, whatever. But I see them strategically. It would be they would I think they would probably pick China if they actually thought that they had a good shot at beating the United States. Japan is our buddy. Like, that's our. We kind of like kicked a family out and put in our own in Japan, and I don't see any worries with that country. But like that Southeast Asia powder keg, that's exactly what we have going on right now, and
I think you just
insane.
I mean, this is definitely the most current powder keg,
Right.
but I think you have a few all over the world. But this is just now. This is the hottest one.
I would say like it's the biggest one though too,
because
like,
we've talked about too. You could easily see one break out in the Middle East.
Yeah, with the Middle East, but like I see the potential of it happening with North Korea. Like if you actually could compute all of the different odds, I feel like the odds of it happening with North Korea would be much, much higher than any other country. Because I mean, like, technically we've like that has been a war zone since since the Korean War. That war never ended. They're still very bitter. Everybody's very bitter about it. I mean, like, and when you talk about like old school spheres of influence with China, Russia, the communist Russia, there's still people, right? Like we can't forget, like, communist Russia ended in the 90s. Like, there's still people there that are communist Russians. Like they probably, some of them probably still want the Soviet Union. Mm-hmm. And they're really happy with Vladimir Putin going ham on things, you know. So we could see some of the worst things to happen in our lifetimes. And I feel like, yeah, we've had conflicts before, we've had wars before, but not like in our like us, the 20-year-olds, the 30-year-olds. We haven't seen anything quite like what we would see. We haven't seen a Korean War, a Vietnam. A lot of the younger people, we haven't seen a Vietnam.
No,
I don't want to like that. No. I don't want to see the draft start. I don't want to see any of that. But how can you get off the tracks if it keeps going this way? If they keep escalating, how do you stop it?
I don't know. I mean, it really all we can do right now is just kind of see how it all plays out.
Yeah, hope for the best. Now, I know, like, that got a little bit intense. That always gets intense when you talk about war, potential of World War III. And, like, this next one is a little bit intense. There was some reports this last week of people working for CNN saying that the Trump-Russia narrative is all bullshit. There's all different types of things going on with that.
There's so many flaws in that.
Right.
I mean, I do think that not just CNN, but most large news networks post a lot of fake news. It's not just localized to CNN.
Right.
And I think that there's a lot of people that are so willing to kind of jump on this just from it being reported.
Right.
That they're not really kind of looking at the facts.
Right.
The first one, the guy doesn't even work in the political side of the company.
Yeah.
Where he said, and he didn't even, both times they didn't really specify what parts of the Russia narrative weren't true. Like, it's the whole thing.
Yeah. Is it just Trump's relationship, or is it some of his cabinet members' relationships, or what? Yeah.
And then you had the second video that came out, I think, either the next day or the day after. And the guy didn't specify what part of it was fake. But then he also posted a video of himself a few days earlier saying the same thing that was on this video that was supposedly leaked.
So it wasn't like a gotcha moment for CNN.
But that's how it was being presented. Right. Oh, we got you now.
And what it is like exactly what we kind of try to talk about is to be aware of the narratives, right? That so many of these people out there are wanting to push their own narratives. And that's exactly what they're doing. They wanted to push that narrative of CNN fake news. And we could analyze this, like, I mean, in the past we've analyzed things kind of in one perspective as far as the media going after people or other entities as blood in the water. But there's a lot of blood in the water when it comes to fake news and attacking media outlets. I mean, it's pretty easy to do it now. I mean, all you got to do, fake news.
I mean, if you want to troll them, yeah, you just yell fake news. But honestly, most news stories, if you actually pick them apart, you can find something that's fabricated.
There's some parts that are very, very unusual. There was back a couple of weeks, I don't know if we talked about it, but the issue of CNN staging the protesters.
Yeah, so that's such a gray area because the protesters were there. They were protesting, but they pulled some of the protesters aside and brought them, like down the street or something, and so they could get their perfect shot.
So, like, the part that's kind of weird about that, though, like, I don't know, I watched some videos on the internet of people recording, like, the whole thing, right? Like, the behind the scenes of it. And, like, I understand that any type of political organization or type of, effort like that, there's going to be people, like, heading it and organizing it, but it just seemed weird. Like, you should look it up. We'll look it up. Also, the people listening, check it out. The CNN organizing protesters. There's a behind the scenes type of video of somebody with their cell phone just shooting it, and something seems really off with it as far as who's giving out signs, and like it's all. It's not like they were handing out signs. Yeah. It wasn't like the people like showed up with their signs. It wasn't like the people showed up with like flowers or there was some other stuff too. Like they were passed these things, and that makes me feel a little bit dirty about it. Like,
see, I didn't know that. Yeah. I knew that they had relocated some of the protesters, and one of the arguments that I had seen against it was that they presented it as if they just kind of found this
right, like a grassroots, like, oh yeah, hey, look at these people on the streets in this area. They're everywhere,
and that was the issue that I was having with it. It was not necessarily a lie, but it wasn't handled correctly. Yeah. But now that you say that the behind the scenes stuff,
yeah, definitely just look into it. I don't know. It makes me a little bit more on the fence as far as how staged was it, and I mean. Like what we've said in the past, though, everybody, all of the news stations, they all have their narrative that they try to push, right? And it's either acknowledging certain aspects of the news or not, or anymore, it's like changing certain aspects, changing words. Oh man, what was the deal with CNN and the guy that got blackmailed?
So yeah, now that it's funny you brought up the blood in the water thing, because like these stories just kind of came out in succession. I don't know if any of you guys seen it, but there was
that Trump Twitter.
Yeah, there was the meme and it was taken from Donald Trump.
The president tweeted it.
Yeah, he was in when he was a pro wrestler, or I don't know if he was a pro wrestler, but if he was just there for like an episode or whatever.
Right.
And a guy on Reddit had photoshopped just over the guy's head the CNN logo.
Yeah.
And it was Trump just beating the shit out of CNN.
Yep.
And Trump retweeted it, which.
It's hilarious.
It is hilarious. Like, it's not very presidential, but
there's so many different levels. I don't even know what to think.
Out of all of the fuck you moments that Trump has done since he has been president, that is by far my favorite.
Yeah.
I actually laughed at that. It wasn't like, oh, he's not very presidential. I was like, that's funny. But then it turns out that CNN had done research and found out who the guy that originally posted it was.
They're so bitter. Like, they're so jaded about it. That's what it is. They're so jaded about how hilarious. I'm sure there's people working for CNN that's like, that's funny. Like, there was so many people at that organization that were jaded that they looked into the guy. I mean,
yeah. So they looked into this guy, found out who he was. They contacted him. He deleted his Reddit completely. And their statement is where things get a little fishy.
Yeah.
The way they worded it just made it sound like they were blackmailing him. So they had said that they contacted him and that they weren't going to post his personal information to protect him, but as long as he doesn't post anything like this again. And it's just...
That's a little weird. Like, as long as you don't do it again, we're not gonna out you. I don't know. Like that's a little bit that's going a little bit above and beyond.
I don't think there's anything wrong with them outing him.
Right.
I mean, he posted something on the internet. It became viral.
He made a meme.
Whatever. Yeah, he made a meme. It became viral.
But it was all.
I take back that statement that I think there's nothing wrong with them outing him. I think that it's within reason to do so. But if I were in that position, I don't know if I would want to be outed either.
Right. But the big part though is it wasn't like it's not just like what. It's not just his name. They found a bunch of like racial stuff on his Reddit, and like he was a part of a community on that website where their whole goal is to be extremely offensive and have super dark humor that I'm sure a lot of even our listeners don't quite understand how dark the internet humor can be.
I hang out in places like that on the internet.
Right.
I by no means. Believe any of the things that I see on there or have said myself.
Yeah.
But if you take some of these horrible things and you take them out of context, they're going to paint you as a very, very awful person.
Terrible, racist, bigot, sexist, anti-feminist asshole. And that's kind of what I think they were really going at is like, not only are we going to out you on your name, but we're gonna really out you, like associate you, that your real name, with the posts, the private posts, or like the anonymous posts that you've done. And that's where I feel like that's where it's like,
it's extremely shady.
Yeah.
And the worst part is like it's not like somebody's twisting the story. This is what they posted, you know.
Yeah, no, it's interesting to see how the media can throw its weight around, and at the same time, they'll ask for pity in a sense of like, oh, don't beat us up anymore. Like, look at the president's doing this. And like they're attacking him. They're straight up attacking him. Like, of course he's gonna have a rebuttal. He's going to attack back. He's not going to sit there and be quiet about it.
Well, but I do think that to an extent he deserves some of the attacking.
Right.
But you can't get mad at him for retaliating.
Right. I mean, like...
You can get mad at him because he is kind of held to a higher standard.
Yeah.
But I think that standard went out the window a few months ago.
Oh, man. Well, and, like, that's another benefit of just having some knowledge of history. So... One president that I kind of think of when it comes to non-presidential is Andrew Jackson, right? I believe he was a Democrat, too, way back in the day.
Well, back then, though, didn't Democrats have more Republican conservative views?
Oh, everybody had way more conservative views. So
it's not specific to a party. It's just kind of everybody.
Yeah. But Andrew Jackson was... elected president in a very crazy way. He was actually elected by Congress, and what occurred was a split between him and two other presidents. Or no. Sorry, I messed that up. He was not elected that way. He was part of it, but he lost that. And so then on the next election, he won, and he was he was so excited. His whole campaign base was, I'm just going to do whatever the people say. I don't need to know anything. He started the anti-intellectual movement when it came to being president. Because prior to that, like, all of our presidents were very, very, very intelligent. And Andrew Jackson kind of wasn't. Also a renegade that assassinated or executed several British troops in Florida just because, like, he caught them. Like, he caught them. Not even like Florida wasn't even our colony. Like we were in Spain's colony, and we executed British troops there. So bringing it back to like being non-presidential, he when he won, he threw a massive kegger in the front lawn of the White House, where the party started in the White House, and it was so crazy, so bad that they had to move the barrels of beer and the barrels of alcohol outside just to get people to like leave the building. And so, yeah, like non-presidential, like, yeah, sure. There's been somebody that's done something that's offensive when it comes to being president. So Trump is just that. Like, it's a changing of the guard when it comes to how presidents behave. And now the next ones, like, the presidents of our future are going to need a social media presence. And by having a social media, like a strong social media presence, they're going to be more active when it comes to responding to things. And if a news organization is like, oh, you're doing this, nope, that's a lie, and this is why, or
fake news,
or just fake news. Yeah, like I mean, like if you don't want to put in the energy of coming up with a debate, which I probably wouldn't have a lot of energy if I was president, I'd just be like, fake news, and just keep that going, because I wouldn't want to really put in the mental capabilities into that. So, but and that's a part that we need to acknowledge too, is like the presidents of our future are going to be social, like they're going to be active on social media. The part that's so weird about Trump doing it is that he's not a part of our generation. He's not a part of the Generation X. He's still a baby boomer. So it is kind of interesting to see that the level, I mean, that he can troll. I don't know if I've ever seen anybody in that age range be able to do what he's done. I mean, look at what he did to CNN. I mean, with that meme, that's amazing. Like, that is professional status.
That is definitely hilarious.
Yeah.
I still, every time I think about it, it makes me giggle.
But yeah, if you guys should definitely check out that meme, take a look at it, see what you think about it, because it is pretty funny.
And then also, don't forget to look.
Oh, sorry.
Mic is muted.
Hey, my mic is muted. But yeah, also don't forget to just check out our stuff.
That CNN thing too.
Yeah. Oh, the story about the guy, right? The guy that they're kind of blackmailing. Check that out.
And then the story too about
the video of the protesters. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. Just be aware of all of this type of thing. Keep your ears open for North Korea, though. That's going to be a scary one, and I think we're going to see some more this next week. That's just my gut feeling, is that there's going to be some more heightening on that one. And I feel like I successfully called the healthcare bill, right, of our last podcast, where that next week it was nothing but healthcare after that in the news and the media, because of that going into Senate, which I believe that it's. I don't know if they've actually even taken a vote on it. I haven't
heard anything about it since.
A lot of attention to it, but I don't think it's not going to make it through Senate. I know that. I'm calling that right now. Like, I would bet money there's no way that the original bill from Congress is making it through Senate. Just not possible. But we really appreciate you guys listening. I hope that some of you have stuck around through our absence. But just keep on keeping on. And this is Paul.
This is Patrick.
Thank you.